years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
There's the logo. Hello, everybody. How are you? I'm Alex Bennett, and this is the Ramble. We're here, and you know what I've been doing? Both nights I've been forgetting to put on the Ramble logo. You know, this little doohickey there. See that one? Okay. Yeah, but I put it on, so now it was okay. I caught it kind of at the last minute. Having to make a few changes here and workarounds and things like that, because I noticed I have a thing I push here when I want to start recording the show, and when I push it at the end of like some music here, so that I don't get the promo on the recording. It's been starting late into it. So what I did is I made it so that there was nothing happening after the last spot for like about 5 seconds, and then I started it. So, and in doing all of that, of course, in my muddled mind as an old fart, I'm forgetting how to do stuff, okay? So, anyway, that's the way it goes. Yes, I'm here tonight. And I want to talk about last night. We may go to the phones early. Last night was it was one of those nights where I say, why the fuck am I doing this? I've got to, first of all, I've got to say to the members of the citizen panel last night, you were all terrific except for one. And I've tried to, let me go back to the beginning of this whole thing. I've always tried to innovate. I don't want to do things in the way they always are done, because I feel that, it's important for us to be able to try and bend the medium, to kind of stretch its capabilities, to find new ways of doing things. And when I went to doing a podcast, first of all, I broke all the rules, because most podcasts are like 5 minutes long or 10 minutes long. And I went into a nightly 2-hour format, which probably I should have never locked myself into. I should have just said, here's an hour. But the reason I did 2 hours is that being an old radio guy, hey, what radio show is only 1 hour long? It's like Sunday morning public service broadcasting is 1 hour long, or even a half hour in some cases. So I started this thing and did it as a 2-hour show, I came up with the idea of the citizen panel, and that was I've told the story before and how that came to be. That was just an accident. What happened was I was looking for a way to take phone calls, and the only way that I could do it was by going to the phone company and saying, would you install a system for me? And then I would sit here pushing from line to line. And I went, well, how much is that going to run me a month? And that was going to be a couple $100 a month just to do that. So I was trying to look for other ways to do it, and I found Skype. And with Skype, I found that I could actually put more than one person on at the same time. So the idea is that I'd use Skype as my audio for calls, and people would call that, and then I could put them all on and do what we call citizen panels. In other words, not just one person talking to one person, but one person talking to maybe upwards to 12 people, okay? It's something actually that I did years and years and years ago in radio. When I was first starting out at, where was it? Where did we first do that? It was either in Houston, Texas, or it was in New York at WPLJ. But what happened is that in the old days you had these phones. You remember the old, the clunky phones that were on your desk, right? And we would have 4 lines on there, with each with a push button, okay? And so I go, okay, Bob on line 1, and I go to him, and I go, Mary on line 2, and I go to them. And it was a matter of just pushing down on the right button. Well, something we found out, okay, that in those old phones, there was a washer in the phone on each line, each of the 4 lines, plus the hold button, that a washer that prevented more than one button from being pressed at the same time. Okay? So we found that if you remove the washer, you could push down 2 buttons at the same time, or 3 buttons at the same time, or even 4 buttons at the same time, because these phones didn't go past 4 buttons, at least the one that we had. So we removed the washer, and I started doing a thing where I would have people talking to other people. That worked out just fine. And that I did very early on, and that maybe was what gave me the idea that the citizen panel might be a good idea, because that was something we did then, and now I could do it, and I could do it legally without destroying phone company equipment. And I wouldn't have to use a phone company. I could use a thing called Skype. And so I said, okay, so we'll have a citizen panel. And the show started going on with a citizen panel. And what I would do on every Friday night, I would take the video from Skype and put it on and just simulcast the show as video. But I was doing that on live stream. That's what we were doing it on. I've since dumped live stream. Who needs live stream? Who needs Vimeo? Well, why does Vimeo exist? Anyway, and I subscribe to it. I have like a yearly subscription to it, which is lapsing now. And if I don't say anything, they'll just re-up me for another year. And I'm thinking about getting rid of it, because do any of you watch this show on Vimeo? I don't think so. But anyway, where was I? We'd started with the citizen panel, and then the video, I started figuring out one way or another that I could do the video 4 nights a week, and so I initiated it at 4 nights a week, and now it's pretty much become a video show rather than an audio show, although we are going out live on the internet right now. Be my guest. I want you, if you want to listen to the audio. How many people do we have? Do we have many people listening to the audio? Let me look at this. Let me see here for a second. Well, first of all, I'm going to see if we're okay there. All right. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, we got some people listening on the audio only, but the thing is, you can go to the internet, and you can go to YouTube and you can see us live. But anyway, that's how the citizen panel happened. And I said to myself, it's not, you don't get that old that you can't innovate if you look for the opportunities. And I think that the citizen panel was a complete innovation. Not that anybody really gives a good shit about it, but I think it was an innovation in the way talk shows are done. There's an upside to it, and there's a downside to it. The upside is it's new, it's fresh, you can get into some really good discussions with a whole group of people with different ideas, and it becomes like, an electronic Hyde Park. I don't know if you know what Hyde Park was, but in Hyde Park in London, on Sundays, people get to stand up on soapboxes and give speeches about their political feelings and so on. But anyway, I really love the idea and was wedded to the idea of the citizen panel. I don't even know how I came up with the term citizen panel, but I needed a name to describe it to people. So far, it hasn't caught on. So far, very few people do what I'm doing. I don't know if there is anybody doing what we do. But the downside of it is that sometimes you get a whole bunch of people at the same time, and some of those people don't know how to act properly. And acting properly is a simple act. What you do is you don't do anything that impinges on somebody else's ability to communicate in this form, and that there's a give and take, and you say what you have to say, and then somebody else says what they have to say, and so on. But you don't dominate the conversation. You know, you care about the people you're with, even if you disagree with them. Okay. And I also believe I had several core beliefs about doing shows like this. One of which is all opinions are welcome, even if I don't agree with them and even if I don't like them. Hell, if a Nazi called up the show and wanted to spout his Nazi philosophy, I probably, out of my sense of fairness, would let him. Just because when I say, hey, here's the Skype line, it's open, give us a call, I don't go, give us a call unless you have an opinion that's opposite or counter to mine. So I've always embraced people who disagree with me. Patrick was the one guy that always disagreed with me when I was doing my show over at Sirius XM. That's when I first met up with Patrick. And I liked Patrick because Patrick was a reasonable conservative. I liked the way he presented himself. I didn't agree with a single thing he said, but that didn't matter. And so I've always believed in allowing people to say what they got to say, and to not feel intimidated in any way by saying it. And even though they're in a forum where, I mean, most of the people that call this show are to the left, okay? That's just the way it is, I guess, because I'm to the left and you attract who you are, all right? All right. So I attract who I am. But if a person is a right-winger, I want them to feel comfortable here. I want them to feel that they can say what they've got to say, and it never is going to cause a real problem to them, okay? And that I care that their feelings are expressed and are valued, even though we disagree with them. Anyway, whatever. Well, I have this one guy who I've known for years. Actually, I knew him for a period of time, and then I didn't know him anymore. Okay. But then when I started doing this, he started calling. And I remembered him, and his name is Phil Meyer. And he started calling the show. Well, Phil happens to be a right-winger, okay, if that's the best way of putting it. He's not a conservative, because conservatives are... He's a conservative like Trump is a conservative. Trump isn't a conservative. Trump is self-serving, but he's not a conservative. And Phil started calling the show, and Phil did something that I really appreciated for the show. He gave it that diversity that even Patrick didn't give it, because Patrick was reasonable, okay? But I liked somebody who was, so far to the right that, whatever. And I also liked Phil. You may not think that's true because of the way I talked to him many times on the show. But I liked Phil. And Phil then has, over the last couple of years that I've been doing the show, been a good friend. He's always been there for me when, for instance, he senses that I've got some kind of problem. He'll call me up and say, hey, you want to talk about it? Give me his advice, although most of the time I don't take it. But I value Phil as a friend. All right, does that make sense? All right. In the last, half year, something has happened with Phil on this program. I don't know what it is, but where before he was mildly annoying if you disagreed with him, he was becoming disruptive on this program. Not because of his opinions, but disruptive because he would talk over people, he would go on long rants, he would always have something to say about everything. And what this was doing was taking the format that I created and putting a kind of damper on it. The damper I tried not to put on it by allowing somebody like Phil to talk. And it just started to get worse and worse. And a couple of weeks ago, I decided to write him. And then I called him and talked to him on the phone. And I said, Phil, there's something different with the way you're approaching this show. And I really wish you would kind of tamp it down, you know. Remember that you're part of a citizen panel, and other people want to talk too. And not to talk over other people. Your mic is always louder than everybody else's, and just be part of the group, you know, and don't go crazy, you know, I said, I'm not trying to tell you what to think, and I'm not trying to inhibit you from stating your opinion. But what I'm saying is I'd like you to quiet it down a little bit, take it down about 5 notches, so that because what I found is that with Phil present, other people who normally would jump in and start talking don't. They remain quiet. I don't want that. I don't want Scott Boddicker, for instance, to feel he can't call because he won't be able to get a word in edgewise if Phil's on, okay? Or that Jeff, who is very quiet on this program, doesn't feel he can't jump in and say something. When Phil isn't here, he's far more active on the program than when Phil is. People like Tom Yamaguchi don't even call the show when Phil's on because they don't feel they can get a word in edgewise. And I wanted him to be aware of that and to do me a favor and just tamp it down. I said, you don't have to have a comment for everything we say, you know? And I said, and you know, sometimes you just take the show off into a ditch. So I assumed that he, you know, took me at what I said. And I said, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to inhibit your opinions. I'm just trying to tell you to tamp down the way in which you express them, okay? Because you're intimidating other people. And he agreed. He said, you know, I'm your friend, and anything you need, I will do. Well, apparently, I don't even know if it worked for one night, but it certainly was better after I had that call for about 2 or 3 days. And then all of a sudden, we started getting back to the same thing. And last night, I had enough problems technically with the program. For some reason, I'm taking some pill that's making it so I forget to do stuff. And when you're doing this, it's like, you know, tapping your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. And we get into the show, and we start it up, and we start talking, and all of a sudden, Phil is just, you know, I started to say something, and Phil jumps in. And I'm trying to still say something, and he's still jumping in. And finally, I yelled at him, and I said, Phil, you know, fucking goddamn Christ, you know. Will you let me say what I have to say? And then he made some kind of snarky little remark or whatever, like Phil does. And I made whatever point I was going to make, and we went on with the show, more show. Okay? Okay, so we're back on with more show. And all of a sudden, I'm saying something again, and he interrupts. And it was just getting to the point where I felt that it was hurting the program, and that he was derailing the program, and that he was disrupting the program. And I just got really mad, and I just said, that's it, Phil. You talk, you say what you got to say. And I turned off my mic, and I just sat here, and I didn't say anything. And then I finally decided, fuck it. I'll get up and see if my ice maker's still making ice. And I just got up and walked away. And I didn't talk on this program for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. And in the meantime, what was going through my head was, why the fuck am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this every night? I have, like last night we had 6 people. I said, I have 5 reasonably decent people here. Actually, we had 7 later on. 6 reasonable people, and 1 guy's taking the show off the rails. I said, but is that worth even doing it? I would do it for those other 5 people, or the 6 people. But with Phil involved, it just becomes a terrible situation. And then I start getting notes from people, because I put a sign up saying, this may be, when I put up the videos of the show, I said, this may be the last Ramble ever, so enjoy it. Because I just felt that, it was getting to that point where I just was sitting here going, why the fuck am I doing this 4 nights a week? Why do I continue to do it? We don't have that huge an audience. Why? I'm not making money off of it. Nobody's writing articles about how wonderful this show is. Why am I doing this? And why am I putting myself through what I just put myself through? And I got notes from people saying, well, why don't you just kick Phil off the show? And I thought about that, and I went, well, that goes against my basic philosophy. The only person I've ever kicked off the show was a guy by the name of Doug, and I got rid of him because he was disruptive. He was constantly disruptive, but not even in a Phil way, just in a way where we'd be talking about something, and he'd suddenly start talking about something else. Like there was no other show going on but the Doug show. So I got rid of him, and I got rid of Mike Allen too, and that wasn't for a political opinion or even that horribly raspy voice he's got. It was because he had said something about me, and I just said, then you don't need to be on my show. So anyway, those are the only 2 people that have ever been really banned from the show. And Phil doesn't come under that category of banning, because to begin with, he's been my friend. He's been a decent person to me, and I just couldn't see taking him off because of his political opinion. But getting rid of him, I got a thing yesterday from somebody going, yeah, Phil this, Phil that. He was a Phil fan, okay, and he said, you're probably going to wind up kicking him off the show and whatever, Why do you treat him the way you do, I think was what he said. And the fact was that I was going to write back and just say, well, I treat him the way I treat him because he's still on every night. It's like if I didn't want him around, I'd just kick him off the show, right? And I didn't. And of course, that guy didn't write me back again after I wrote him back. What I wrote him back was blow me, I think was what I said. But anyway, the idea of kicking Phil off the show made no sense to me. I mean, it wasn't in my DNA. Phil had not done anything to me personally, and he apparently, I felt disrespected, okay, because I asked a favor out of him, and the favor was to do something about this, and he didn't. And he said he would, and he didn't. And that was disrespecting me. That was betraying me. It was betraying my faith in him. And so I left the show last night going, I just don't want to do another one of these. I just can't. Even though there are people who really enjoy it and really respect it and come on and respect the other people, I just don't know if I personally can do it. I'm exhausted. And, this is no easy thing for anybody, especially somebody of my late years, as I can put it now, to do every night. But if I'm going to do it, it better be pleasurable, and it better be something 10 o'clock comes, I can hardly wait for 10 o'clock to get here so I can do the show. I want to feel the way that I always felt when I did radio shows, that, gee, I can hardly wait to get on the air because I love getting on the air. But it was getting to the point where this wasn't fun. Last night where I said, this just isn't fun anymore. And I decided to come on tonight out of respect to the people who are on the citizen panel and populate the citizen panel on a regular basis, and to do it one more time. I have had a communication with Phil. I told Phil that I was disappointed in him, that I felt I'd been betrayed by him, that he was showing a lack of respect for me and a lack of respect for the people who call this program. And he wrote me, and his first thing was, well, then maybe I better not call anymore. And I said, that's not the point. I said, the point is, you know, I like your diversity, the diversity you bring to the program, but I don't like the way in which you do it, you know, in which you're depriving other people of their place in this program. And he then wrote me and said, well, I'll maybe take a couple of nights off, and I'll listen to the shows that I've done and see what you're talking about with me interrupting and so on, and see if I can do something to tamp it down. So apparently he's not going to be here tonight, or at least that's what the indication was. And I think it's nice that he will take a night off. He's got to figure this thing out for himself. So I don't know what to say. But last night was like one of those nights where I just said, you know, life's too fucking short. I've got other things to do. And quite frankly, I've thought about getting rid of the Ramble and doing something else, you know, doing some other kind of show, doing it another time of the day, different name, maybe not maybe not 4 days a week. You know, I've thought about that, but I haven't acted on it, and I haven't come up with a new idea. So, you know, that's why I'm not doing it. Anyway, listen, the Skype lines are open. Maybe you want to talk about this, but Phil, I imagine, will not be on the program tonight, and we'll be back when he feels he can. And if he comes back and he disrupts the program, I'll tell him to hang up. You know, because I want you people out there to enjoy the program. I don't want this to be a real problem for you. Okay. Oddly enough, when I put that stuff up on the postings of the show last night, that yes, maybe the last show or whatever, we got more people watching it after the fact than we normally do. So anyway, we're here, and now let's get some calls, and let's see if we can get a citizen panel together. And if we can't, I will just cut the thing off and go home and go to sleep. Here comes Sibby Itty. Boy, we haven't heard from this guy in a while. Wait a minute. Sibby, you're there. Hi, Sibby. How are you? Let me. I gotta. You haven't had to do this before, but I have to. I have to do.
I couldn't stay away when you threatened that you're going to go offline.
Yeah, there's Sibby. Okay, here comes Dan. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Dan. Let me see here. Dan would be in the second spot. Come on. Okay, Dan. I gotta find you now. Where is it? Wait a minute, where are you, Dan? You're not coming up. Hold on a second. Cancel that. Okay, now I will try and bring you up. Hold on a second. And Jeff Stein is calling. Let me answer the phone there. But first of all, let me do this and get Dan. I'm sure Dan's in here. Mr. Dan. There we are. Okay, and then let me do Mr. Zeller. Jeff. That would be okay. Jeff. Stein. Hold on a second. Scott, hold on. Everybody's calling me at once. This makes me tense. Let me see here. Stein, Zeller, there we are. And then, let me see here. Wait a minute. There we go. And then let me go over, since we have more than that, I have to go over to the fourth position and put Scott in there. You guys make me work too hard. There we go. Okay. And now the big thing is I push a button and everybody can see everybody. Oh, wait a minute. I got the wrong person in the fourth place. Okay. Hold on a second. We got it. Scott Boddicker has got to go in that fourth place. That's why
I hate that.
Yeah, I hate that. Yeah, I hate that. Okay, there we go. Let's see here. There we are. Ah. Hey, Sibby, how are you? Hello, Dan, how are you? Jeff, how are you? Scott, how are you?
Doing good, sir.
You're very
Doing
good. What have you been doing, Sibby?
Busy with work, and I have a toddler, so
Yeah, well, that keep you busy.
Every time around this time is when she needs to go to bed, and I have to.
You live where again? West Coast?
Long Island.
Where?
Long Island.
Oh, Long Island. Oh,
Yeah.
for some reason I thought you lived on the West Coast. So you're in Long Island. So you're really close. You're close to
Yeah.
Jeff. Let's all get together.
Right.
Hello, Scott. How are you this evening?
I'm okay, Alex. I heard your little talk, and I appreciate it because I tried to come in last night and listen, and all I heard was screaming, and I said, well, I think I'll just wait till Jack and it's calmer. But anyway.
Yeah, no, and I don't blame you. That's
Yeah.
what I've been bothered by, and that's what I was bothered by last night. It's not that I don't like spirited conversation on this program. That's not the point. But when it's just hostile,
And the interrupting. That's what my wife interrupts me all the time. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. 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 And so you don't need some guy on the air interrupting the host, right? Yeah.
Now, I know how you feel. I know how you feel.
Yeah. Jeff, and then I'll go to Dan.
Yeah, okay. I got to tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Other than when you talk about Phil,
Yeah.
we all know what he is like when he's on the show. But outside that, he's a wonderful person.
Yes, he's a very nice guy.
He really is. Like, God knows, once in a while I talk to him about something. He's trying to help me things. He'd do anything for anybody. He's just a super nice person. But I was on the show, and I turned it off.
You hung up. You.
I did. I
Yeah.
said, this is bullshit.
Well-
I don't want to hear it.
Well, that's what you see. I mean, that's what I worry about, and I think that there are. I could look. I've never told Phil don't call. Okay. Number one, because he is a friend, but more than that, because of the diversity and because of my feeling that if I got rid of him, would I be getting rid of him because I disagree with him? And so I'm very reluctant to do that, in spite of the fact that I know that if he weren't on this show, I'd probably get more listeners. I think it turns people away, at least the interruptive quality he has, not his opinions, but the way in which he expresses those opinions. Yes, Dan.
Well, speaking as I was a big part of Gabnet earlier on, and I kind of recently came back. I, as much as I disagreed with him before, he was always fun, and before, and I think a lot of the time also maybe with now that Trump is president, it's like, wait a minute, this isn't so funny anymore, for one thing, like just making jokes. But, before it was like the give and take. I remember it's different now than it was.
Well, you could. I think there's a what?
Back when I used to come on, back in
What I was going to say is the point you're making is kind of an interesting one that I don't entirely disagree with, or I don't disagree with, and that is that we're living in the Trump era. And so we have someone who is defending what I consider absolutely egregious behavior on the part of a president. I mean, it's embarrassing. I won't, I love to travel around the world and so on. I won't travel outside of this country because I'm afraid of what other people think of me when they find out I'm an American. I mean, really, it's gotten that bad. And while, of course, I mean, he's defending Trump, but it's become it's almost like he's trying to imitate Trump. You know, it's a change. I mean, it's not the same Phil that was here a year ago or a year and a half ago.
Not that much different either.
Not that much different. How about 2 years ago?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, 2 years ago, much more reasonable, much easier to talk to, much lighter, and didn't take himself seriously. So, I think the fact that he's taking a time out is probably a good idea, you know, and you know, got a lot of people listening tonight.
I think it's good for your sanity too, Alex, because I could feel your frustration, and I understand it.
Yeah. Well, I thank you, Scott. Yes, Dan.
Well, I am looking into maybe going into some therapy for myself, and I asked somebody just anecdotally, has like anxiety and depression ramped up in the last few years since all this has been going on? And they're like, absolutely. I mean, it's like we're a nation of mentally ill people.
Well, Sibby doesn't look mentally ill.
Anxiety's up. I know that. I got it.
Yeah, but Sibby doesn't look mentally ill, does he?
Yeah, I mean, I do get frustrated at times, but the thing is, Alex.
Well, listen to your accent. Of course you're going to get frustrated at times.
No, the thing is, I believe that if there's something that you have no control over, there's no point wasting your time and energy worrying about it. If it's not in your control, just let it ride.
But here's the question: if something is, I agree with you. If you can't control something, you say, "Hey, I can't control that, so what am I going to worry about?" On the other hand, if the thing that you can't control is affecting your life,
it is, yes.
Then the question is, do you suddenly take a passive nature to it because you go, well, I can't do anything about it, Yeah.
What I have decided or thinking is I will not be voting next year. I don't think it's gonna make any difference. I've thought over it over and over again. I'm just so frustrated. I'm not going to vote. Period.
You need to vote.
It's a statement. I'm making a statement that I don't like either side. It's just like that.
Yeah,
something like that.
Scott,
because I feel like one side is pandering to the limit that it's annoying me, and the other side is so racist. It's scaring me.
Well, I agree with you about the pandering. That's why I find it harder and harder to watch MSNBC as an example, because I just feel they're trying to suck my dick. I don't feel that they're trying to make a political statement, and they're bashing Trump every minute of every day, and meanwhile there's the rainforest and the Amazon is on fire, and I think that's a bigger story than any of it. Hello to Mark. How are you, Mark?
Hey.
Yeah, there's our good friend Mark, who doesn't call that often. Let me find you a place here on the citizen panel. Hold on a second while
The Skype, they updated it.
It's horrible.
Oh yeah, Skype always is updating. They completely want to make things worse. They go, well, we fucked up this program bad enough. There we go, Mark. Okay, Mark, and he's in there, and I then put him on. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hey, there's Mark. See, folks, there's Mark over here. Okay.
If I may, you've been so gracious. Again, that's friendship, okay? And I got to give you props for that, Alex. I really do.
Well, it isn't a question of the friendship. It's a question of, there are reasons to throw people off the show. I think that we know that in the case of what's his name, Doug. I had every reason to do it. It was just I couldn't corral Doug. All right.
Right.
And Doug didn't have a political agenda that bothered me, so I felt completely okay in getting rid of him. I mean, it just didn't.
Drunk.
Huh?
He was drunk.
He was drunk. Yeah.
He was Larry Kudlow.
Come on. He was Larry Kudlow. Oh God. But you know, thank you for saying that, Mark. I mean, you know, but you know, last night was it. You know, I just couldn't take it anymore, especially because I had a talk with him about this, and he said he would do something about it, and it only got worse. It was worse last night than it was when I called him and said, "Hey, could you tamp it down?" I don't know, and you're right, Jeff. Phil is a very nice guy. He's a really nice guy. But once you put him on the air, he turns into like this other animal, you know? The guy I talked to on the phone off the show isn't the same guy. Yes, Dan.
Has Phil done radio before?
Well, he worked with me for a short time in San Francisco. Yeah. But I don't think he's...
Okay, I got guilty of this too. This is kind of why I wanted to step away from Gabnet as much as I had been, like in the earlier days. But it sounds like Phil was just trying to do a right-wing talk show.
Well, you know, I think there was another problem. I think he was getting to take himself too seriously. And even he wrote me today and said, I think maybe I've been taking myself too seriously. You know, I feel that when somebody disagrees with me, they're attacking my opinions. You know, and my feeling is, you know, if at any point in this business I ever took it personally, you know, or took myself seriously, it was time to get out of the business. You know, and there are some people in this business who do take themselves seriously. One of the worst is Sean Hannity.
Oh yes,
I know.
absolutely.
I've had dealings with Hannity. This guy actually has drunk his own Kool-Aid, you know, and believes what he is. And the fact that and the thing I always liked about Rush Limbaugh is not for one moment did I ever believe that Rush Limbaugh took himself seriously. You know, it was other people who took him really seriously, but I don't think he ever took himself seriously. And I've talked to people who know Limbaugh, and they say no, he doesn't take himself seriously. You know, if he took himself seriously, he'd be running for president right now, right? You know, so. Anyway.
But I think Hannity will run for office one way or the other.
He
has his
may.
eyes set on it.
He may, and it's that lack of you know, that thing of taking himself too seriously that may make him do that. And quite frankly, I think there should be a law against anybody who's on television or in broadcasting from running for political office unless they're out of the business for 5 years. And the reason is they shouldn't be able to cash in on a television popularity or radio popularity and cash that in for a political thing, because you're using your notoriety to get you elected, not your ability.
But on the other side, Alex, there should be similarly a law for someone who has left political office seeking to make mark in the media. Like, you know, so many of them are being commentators on different channels.
Well, I don't know.
The Obamas.
I don't
they have
know
their
that,
own production channel.
I don't know that I mind it going the other way. I mean, I would prefer that somebody who's a broadcaster like myself get the job instead of some political hack. But nevertheless, you know, I'm kind of I'm not bothered as much by that. By the way, Sarah Huckabee Sanders has just gotten a job over at Fox.
Yes.
Speaking of that,
I mean, big surprise, right? You knew that was going to happen.
Well, you know, I want to know what her qualifications are as a broadcaster. You know, I think it's completely different. You do a show and you're a broadcaster. It's different than being even a press secretary. you know. What bothers me is that somebody who's a broadcaster didn't get that job. Okay, so Mark, you kind of agreeing with what I was saying. Do you have a feeling on this?
Oh, it's worse than a donkey show right now. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's like, are we not entertained? You know, that's what's sad about it, Alex. If it wasn't real, this would be good parody.
Yeah, well, you know what is the most, what I call the biggest, how can I call it? The biggest, now, what's the word I'm looking for? The biggest anachronism or whatever in the business is somebody who says, yeah, I'm an NBC, what's the term they use? Political analyst. Everybody that they bring in, that they hire for like $1.50 is an NBC political analyst. They've got so many of them, okay? Because here they got do a show, and then they say, and let's talk to our group of people, and there's 3 people there. And then they take a break for a commercial, and those 3 people are gone, and they're replaced by another 3 people. And these are all people who are on the payroll of like MSNBC or Fox or whatever. And they're paid to be on call. And it's just like, here's the story, let's go to our panel. Here's another story, let's go to our panel. I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of the format and I hate Trump, okay? I hate him with every fiber in my body, okay? I hate him so much that if I said how much I really hate him, the FBI would be here in a second, okay? Secret Service would be at my doorstep. That's how much I hate him. But I'm sick and tired of tuning into MSNBC and seeing a whole hour of nothing but Trump bashing. You know, I don't need that. There's some other news. The Amazon is fucking on fire. Our oxygen is being eaten up. And you're not talking about, oh yeah, they made mention of it last hour for 5 minutes or 2 minutes. Yes, Dan.
A couple things. First of all, for news, do you ever listen to Democracy Now?
I hate it. I hate it.
Oh, I love it. It's great.
I hate it. I can't stand her.
She is another hack.
I agree with you. She's another hack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever, but anyway, I like it. But also, I heard another good line.
What's her name?
The wrong Amazon is burning and the wrong ice is melting.
What's her name? I forget her name now.
Amy Goodman.
Amy Goodman. I used to watch it. I used to watch it. I decided I wanted to watch something good, and I thought, oh, it's Democracy Now! I'll start watching it. She is so fucking boring.
Oh, yes.
She is so dull. Am I right, Sibby?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, she's just absolutely unrelentingly boring and dull.
Yes, there are good commentators on the left side. Katrina Vanderhooven, if you remember, she used to, I think, had editor for The Nation or something. Mm-hmm. She was a pretty effective, the liberal point of view. Now this Amy Adams and the Joan Walsh salon. Yeah. These people have taken over her place, but they are not half as as intelligent as Katrina.
Yeah.
Which I'm. Do you remember, Alex?
I don't know who she is. I really don't.
Katrina Vanderhooven. She used to be the editor-in-chief of The Nation magazine a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know The Nation.
When Obama
magazine
was elected, I think 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. But Sibby, where are you from originally?
India.
India.
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel? Do you feel as a person of that would be mistaken for being Islamic? Oh yeah.
But I never felt that backlash. At least not in New York.
Listen, you live in New York. You're not going to feel it here unless you walk into Trump Tower. But
come to Cincinnati.
Does it bother you? Do you feel the president's a racist when you listen to him?
Yeah, I do feel that, I do feel that he has an affinity towards, people of his own race, and he considers everyone else to be inferior to, his, the way he is, presents himself,
Yeah. Yeah.
Caucasian,
Yeah.
which I think is racist, absolutely. But I also believe that, minorities like, brown person like me, I could also be racist, that I could look at some other race and think of them to be, oh, they are not as smart as me,
Yeah.
it is inherent in us, but to make it public the way he does, he's using the position that he has to make a statement. And a lot of people who had that feeling in their heart, which was kind of, put under covers,
Mm-hmm.
is slowly showing up.
Yeah.
It's slowly showing up because, now they feel as if they have been empowered. Why can't I? Why can't I show what I really feel in my
Well,
heart?
last night the thing.
What's wrong with
The thing
like the king, the Iowa congressman said, what is wrong with being a white nationalist, or something like that,
Well, nothing, because you get to wear a swastika. That's nice, and you get to salute in that funny way. Yeah, you got all that stuff you can do.
There is nothing wrong in loving your own race, loving your own tradition. But there is absolutely a lot of things wrong when you think that you're superior.
That's the difference. There's nothing wrong with identification and loving your identity.
Yes.
But there's a lot wrong with saying that because of that identity, everybody is excluded, but you.
Yeah.
I find it just, the thing that drove me crazy last night was, we've got in this border crisis, which I hate the term border crisis because that was a term invented by the Trump administration. I hate the fact that these children are being affected like they're being affected. They are the ones that have absolutely no control over the situation. We could say their parents do have a certain level of control or whatever, but the fact of the matter is these kids have no control over it, and this is what's happening to them now is going to affect them for the rest of their lives. And then I mentioned last night something that somebody had said in the chat room, in which there's absolutely nobody talking in the chat room tonight. It's amazing. Usually a ton of people, or actually there's two people, and they just write over and over and over again. But he wrote, and it was quite rightly so, he said, what these people are doing is is not a felony, it's a misdemeanor. And we're taking their kids away from them for a misdemeanor.
Like a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to say, I'm a teacher, and there's actually a fair number of Hispanic kids that I know, and it's about empathy because I was watching that little girl on TV, and I know like some little Hispanic girls. I think I know this one girl. She loves me to death, and I think her mom might be an illegal because I'm just guessing because I met her once. She doesn't speak any English. She had to do the translation for me. But this little girl on TV is not much different than this girl I know, and it's just like have some fucking empathy, somebody. Just empathize with someone other than yourself.
That's what I think bothered me the most last night was that. Did you raise your hand, Mark? Did you want to say something?
No. I'm.
You're thinking.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. What bothered me last night was when I said to him that these kids are these are innocent kids, and I suggested last night, and maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong. I don't mind people disagreeing with me, But I really say, where's the world court? Why isn't Trump being brought up on charges of crimes against humanity? Because that's exactly what's going on at our border right now. That is a crime against humanity. So, am I wrong about that?
No.
I would like to see at least somebody from somewhere bring it up, but now Mexico, they want to try. They want to, they want to do for like the El Paso shooting. They want to investigate that as a terrorist activity, but that's as far as that goes, I think.
Yeah. Yes, Scott.
I don't know if I've heard this on a couple of talk radio shows. I've not been able to find it in print or anything, but the UN has contacted the State Department about going down to the border and inspecting the conditions. The UN. I heard they tried to send a letter twice to somebody somewhere, and they just get no response. So I don't know what the UN can do about it. Can they just go down there and with their? I know they don't carry guns or anything because
they can do what they call a fact-finding mission.
But
which are trying to get the facts of what's going on down there.
But do you need the permission of the country that you want to go find the facts at?
I imagine you do. Yes.
Yeah. And if they don't, they can't.
Well, if they don't, what are they hiding?
Exactly.
They should say, "Oh, the UN, come on in, go have a look."
Yeah. Everything's fine.
But I mean, I think at this point, it's gotten to the point where where's the Hague in all of this? They should arrest him for crimes against humanity. We put a lot of people on.
Actually, it's after. There are charges, I believe, against George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. They will not leave the country of the United States for fear of being taken to that.
Well, who was that? Who was that put them on a? Do you remember that, Mark?
It was like Belgium. It was like some other country can bring them up on any charges if they feel they've violated war crimes.
Wow. Yeah.
But they won't. They're not going to go to Europe anytime soon.
Yeah. Some Candace D is saying Phil may be finding it more difficult to defend Trump these days. I don't think so.
No.
He just,
he's all in. He is all in.
He's all in. Yeah.
He's on the Trump train.
Yeah. I quite frankly, and call me wrong here, and more people can call. I don't mind if we get more people. Phil isn't here. You can talk. I think that we are living in a very dangerous time. I think we're dealing in a time in which it's bereft of any real sanity. And I just, when there was when the night that Trump was elected, I woke up girlfriend, and I walked in there and she said, "What's happening with the election?" Because she fell asleep, right? And I said, "Trump won." And her first response was, "You're kidding, right?" And I said, "No." And then when people the next day would say to me, "What are we going to do now? This is going to be a clusterfuck," I said, "There's something great about this democracy that we have here, this alleged democracy we have here." I said, "It survives. There are enough stopgaps. It survives." How wrong was I? Mark, do you think it's surviving?
I think I told you a long time ago. Well, not that. It's like you look in that magic 8-ball, and it tells you ask later. Mm-hmm. Holy crap! What switch flipped in reality? That's what I want to know.
I mean, he does things. It's like he gets up every morning and says, "What can I do to piss people off?"
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll go after the spotted owl today. You know, I mean, he's done all these things where he's like killed. He's allowing drilling in places where we shouldn't be drilling, and he's allowing the killing of animals that we shouldn't be killing. And this is all because he says, "Oh, it's good for business." What do you mean it's good for business? You would know what was good for business, or you would have been good at it.
Or it's a rule the black president came up with.
Yeah. Yes, Scott.
What did he say today? He ordered all the American companies to not do business with China. And
It's not like he ordered him. He made a proclamation that he was asking American businesses not to do business with China. Well,
he's
try
got business in China.
Yeah, try and
He's got business in China.
try and tell Apple that, okay?
Yeah.
And then China turned around and said, "Well, you know, you want to say the little tariff thing? We're putting a 25% tariff on you." So now, and here's the thing: China's going to win. Here's why China's going to win. This is only them dealing with the United States. They don't need the United States. The trouble with Trump is he's a Wharton student from about 50 years ago who doesn't realize that the world has changed since he studied economics in this world, and that it's a world economy, and that China can do business with the rest of the world. And by the way, they're speaking with the rest of the world. The only people
Russia.
they're fighting with is us. You know, if they can sell their products in India, and then here's the other thing he doesn't understand. There are countries that Tim Cook said to him, you know, don't put these tariffs out there, because what you're going to do is you're going to screw us, because we are competing against Samsung. And Samsung is a South Korean company that builds all their stuff in South Korea. Because we're building our stuff in China, we can't compete against them if you start with the tariff shit. And the fact is, that, you know, I wouldn't want to buy stock in Apple right now, as long as this trade war is going on. I think it's amazing to me what's happening here. And this is a guy who studied business. He has no idea what a trade war is. Remember his quote? Trade wars are good.
It's easy to win.
Did he say it was easy to win? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
And they say that inside the White House now, he's going nuts because he realizes he's losing the population. You know, he's got the lowest approval rating of any president in the history of the United States, as long as they've been taking approval ratings, because no president has managed to stay under 50%. They usually go over it at some point. He has never gone over 45%. You know, he's never gone over 50%.
In respectable polls.
In respectable polls. Yes, Dan.
Well, I can tell you around here, he's still got a big fan club here in the Rust Belt, Middletown, where I live. Trump signs in the yard, Trump flags. I see them all over the place. You know, I'm driving around.
You see that down in Florida, do you, Mark?
Not only I've told you before, not only do I live in Florida, I live in the reddest part of Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, just ignore it.
But what are those people that in all these places going to say when their 401k tanks, you know, which it's doing already? You know how are they going to defend this guy that he's made life better for them? You know, can anybody here say their life is better under the Trump administration?
Trump's wife.
Trump's wife, yeah. She's nice to look at, I guess. I don't know. Well,
I can't take that accent though. I'm sorry.
well, neither can she. That's why she doesn't talk that much. Do you know who's
She shuts up.
You know who's disappeared in this whole brouhaha that's going on right now? Are Ivanka and Jared.
Yeah.
They've become surprisingly quiet ever since Trump made his stupid Jew remark.
What do you think that Jared Kushner and Ivanka, being a Jew, would say something about it?
Yeah, I guess she is a Jew, isn't she?
I guess she converted.
Yeah, she converted.
She says she converted. I don't know.
She converted.
Is there a term for a converted Jew from Gentile?
Yeah,
in
she's called Goyim.
Goyim?
Yeah.
I don't know. What that
Jeff got the joke, and so did Mark.
It's a joke.
Okay. A Jew out there somewhere. I don't know.
Trafe?
Huh?
Trafe?
Trafe, yeah. You don't go down on them because they're trafe.
Where's Al Goldstein when you need him the most?
Yeah. Where are all the people I know when I
I'm
need
sure it's
them the
funny.
most?
I don't get it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not that funny.
It's not that funny.
God, I'm really exhausted tonight. I'm having a hard time thinking straight.
Somebody asked about Phil's ethnicity. It's German because I'm German, and Meyer's a German name. So
yeah. Let's see here. Anybody putting stuff up? Even though I strongly agree with Phil, I feel he added some life and fun to the show. Yes, perhaps he should be given a show on the network. At one point, I did offer him his own show. And I think he didn't want to do it.
He's got pretty sophisticated equipment, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a whole studio there. He should do it. But
yeah,
can't.
I don't think I'll be listening, but
I'll be happy to give him a show. Let him go do a show, and leave me alone.
Hey, he can get that American Patriot to call in then finally, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That guy's a piece of work, too, let me tell you.
The YouTube.
Yeah, well, again, you know what I can do with the chat? I did this with somebody the other night who said something nasty about me. So I made it so he couldn't write anything for 5 minutes. Like, I could take American Patriot right now. Let me do it. Don't take offense at it, American Patriot, but I'm going to do it.
What's out there talking?
I can go here to American Patriot, right? And then there are 3 dots that come up. And of the dots, there's, let's see here. Put user in timeout.
No.
Hide user on this channel, add moderator, remove, report. Okay, so if I go, put user in timeout. Okay, American Patriot, I'm going to put you in timeout. Okay, he's now in, American Patriot has been timed out by Alex Bennett for 300 seconds.
He's counting down right now.
And James Hall writes, "Yay!" So for 300, how long is 300 seconds? 5 minutes, right? Yeah. For 5 minutes, American Patriot won't be able to type anything onto the chat room. So don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me. Yes, Jeff.
Something that sets it down where nobody can hear it for a whole month?
No.
Okay, I have certain things that I can do on, I don't know what.
No, the show itself, I can I ban people on YouTube for anything? Like, I know on Facebook you can kind of unfriend somebody or you can block somebody, but that doesn't mean if you block them that they can't see your wall. It just means they can't write anything on it, Like right now it's probably driving American Patriot nuts, but don't worry, American Patriot, you've got about 4 minutes left, so before you can write again. But But I kind of like that. That drove somebody nuts one night. Why do you keep blocking me? You know.
Let's say stuff that would really piss him off.
What? Yeah. Well,
Say stuff that would really piss him off. So he's just
am I too honest when I say that I don't like to ban people who don't agree with me? I mean, I feel banning somebody who disagrees with you is something that Trump would do, and in fact, he has done when he was banning people from his Twitter account who didn't agree with him. Because you can ban people.
Supreme Court told him he had to, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, he's one of the. Remember when you were a kid and you said, "You know what I want to be when I grow up? I want to be president of the United States because then I can make laws and make anything happen that I want to have happen." Right? That's Trump's attitude about what the presidency is. Like
I want to buy Greenland.
I want to buy Greenland. Yeah, you want him to buy Greenland. He can't even take care of a casino in Vegas, for Christ's sake. Are you kidding me? Oh yeah, we're gonna do Greenland. Yeah, right. Go do Greenland. That'll be wonderful. Can you imagine the people in Greenland? Would they want Donald Trump running them? I don't think so. Yes, Dan.
I mentioned this before. I wonder if anybody. It just came to me when I was thinking about this whole Greenland thing. That's where all the global warming stuff is happening. That's where all the ice is melting. What you got to cover that up somehow, right?
Well, what Trump said was one of the reasons we wanted to take him over was because Denmark is losing money on having them as a country. And I'm going, so you want to buy a country that somebody's losing money on? That sounds like a typical Trump financial move.
It was a lie, because I'm sure Denmark's not losing money on Greenland, because everything the guy says is a out-and-out falsehood.
Yeah, bullshit just comes out of his mouth at all times.
Well, secondarily, I've looked at Greenland. That's a lot of land up there. Okay, it's almost the size of a continent. That's how big it is.
No, it's not. It's not really, Alex.
It's an island.
It's the way they draw the map makes it look bigger than it actually is. There's another map out there. I can't remember the name of it, but
on the globe.
Yeah, it's not. It's very small. If you look at land masses ranked in ranking,
yeah,
it's about a third the size of Australia. I think maybe even a quarter the size of Australia. It's not that big.
3 times the size of Texas.
3 times the size of Texas. Okay, it's big. All right, but it's getting.
But it's only 57,000 people there. It's not a lot of.
Yeah.
Right, and the reason is nobody fucking wants to live there. Okay, I mean.
I've looked at land there. I was looking at it.
You were looking at land there?
Go there, and I'm looking for real estate, but you can't buy land. You can only buy a house and put it on the land, but you don't own the land. It's all part of the government.
But that's the same way in Hawaii.
I think so.
It's the same way in Hawaii. You can buy. What you do is you lease the land that you put your house on for 100 years.
Yeah. 99 years, yes.
Or 99 years, right?
Yes.
Yes, Dan.
When they originally, I don't know, the Vikings, whoever originally discovered Greenland, that's why they named it Greenland, just as a sales job, because it was just ice. It was worthless. But they're like, we want to get people to move over there. We'll call it Greenland.
Actually, Iceland is greener than Greenland.
Right. Yeah. Switch it over.
But Greenland is it's let's see here, 600. I read 665,000 square miles of nothing but ice, and a lot of it's melting now. So maybe by the time we bought Greenland, it would be the size of a postage stamp, But I think the big question is, and I really, in the lack of a Trump presence on this program, makes me feel guilty about talking about this subject, but is this guy finally, unquestionably, losing his mind?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that was going on since before he was president. But
What? No.
Yeah, but
You can lose your mind.
he's personally frustrated.
Hmm?
He's totally frustrated because he can't accomplish all of the crazy stuff he wants to do. And I got to tell you, he's got to somehow hear that we're laughing at him.
But
all the
why
time.
isn't there? Why isn't there somebody there telling him that you can't do that? Is everybody
get
afraid
fired.
to do that? Do you think, Sibby? Do you think that? What do you think's the reason, Sibby?
I think, see, he lives for accolades. Anybody who praises him, he's going to put them in wherever positions. And the moment you turn on him, he's going to destroy them. That's been his persona for as long as you can remember. And the fact that the rest of the Republican senator, the majority senates, they're going with him, that's unbelievable. Why are they doing this? I don't get it, because see, I'm at heart, I'm a conservative. I believe in having, more freedom to people than government running things for you, which is a different topic altogether.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's not a conservative.
No,
He's not. He was never a conservative. Look at the fiscal mess that he is trying to push us into. Why does he think that he can control the Federal Reserve?
Let me ask you something, Sibby, because you say you're a conservative. Is there a distinct difference between Republicans and a conservative?
I think so.
Okay, because I would agree with you.
Yes, I think so. I think, conservatives, the old school conservatives are, very few and far between, and they don't have a voice.
Yeah.
Because the Republican, the machine, they are the ones with the money. They have completely silenced the rest of them. The conservative.
So what are the Republicans, or do the Republicans know what the Republicans are now?
Yeah, it's sad, because the country should always have an opposition. If the liberals are a main party in power, they should always have a conservative as an opposition to keep everything in balance. But I
Yeah.
feel like we don't have that opposition anymore. It's just it's like one person deciding everything and no one's opposing it.
Well, I think the Republican Party has lost sight of what the Republican Party is. I mean, you want to talk about Republicans that I liked? McCain was a Republican I liked.
I myself was for John Kasich, and he did visit Long Island, and I was part of the the group who arranged. He came to actually Huntington, the Paramount Theater,
Yeah.
and at that time it was raining, and we had people going all the way out of the village. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of people lined up just
Yeah.
to hear this man speak. So it's not that we don't have a voice for conservatives. We do have. I think John Kasich is a
Yeah,
conservative.
but
He's
I
one
guess
of the few who has never turned back. He was against Trump from the day one, and he still is,
yeah,
which is how it should be.
and yet
But
he's a
not
conservative.
a conservative.
And yet he's a conservative. Yeah.
Yes.
Dan.
well, yeah, John Kasich was the governor of Ohio
Yes.
until the Trumpers kind of pushed him out. And but yeah, John Kasich, he was always I saw as the adult in the room, like
Yes,
during
absolutely.
the
That's the
Republican
term.
debate.
Built in the room. Yes.
Yeah, the adult in the room. Everybody else was just being kids, and
Yep.
but John Kasich,
yeah.
I don't agree with him. He had a ladder. He was
Well,
very
if I'm-
conservative about abortion, things like that. But he was the adult in the room, and since he's left, they got Mike DeWine, who's another
Yeah.
Republican that the Trumpers thought they had one going on him, but
Yeah.
he wound up raising gas taxes. And
Let me mention somebody that a lot of the people listening to us are too young to remember. Barry Goldwater. Now,
Yes.
I was very much against Barry Goldwater because I was for LBJ, right? As the years went on, I began to look at Barry Goldwater and see in Barry Goldwater one of the most honest politicians that ever existed. I mean, I didn't agree with his politics, but I agreed with his honesty. And he is a guy who wouldn't have done any of the things Trump is doing, because to him, that's not what America was. You know, he was an arch conservative, but he believed in American principles. I don't think Trump believes in American principles. I don't think he knows what they are, and I don't think he's ever had them. You know,
He's never had any principles at all.
The two things I liked about Barry Goldwater was, once somebody said to him, "So how do you feel about losing?" He said, "Well, they told everybody that if you voted for me, we'd escalate the war in Vietnam, and a lot of people voted for me, and sure enough, we escalated the war in Vietnam." And his other line was, and this was an interview I saw with him, it was on the back porch of his home in Arizona, and it was by the way, where's Charlie tonight? Usually Charlie's here every night. Have we lost Charlie too?
Unless he's bowling.
Huh?
Unless he's bowling tonight.
Oh, really? I know. I know, but I have. Has he been around this week? No.
Yeah.
What? Maybe on. Well, I didn't do a show Tuesday. Maybe Wednesday. Could have been Wednesday. But anyway, because I thought of Arizona. Okay. But anyway, where was I with Arizona? Something about Arizona.
Goldwater.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's sitting on his porch, and somebody's interviewing him from one of the networks, and it's nighttime, and he's looking out at this nothingness of land in Arizona. And she said, so what do you do now that you're no longer running for president? And he said, well, my wife and I like to come out here on the porch and just kind of sit here and look out at the stars and hum Hail to the Chief. I thought that was terrific.
Funny.
You know. Anyway, so I guess I got to write Charlie and see where he's been. I don't know. Nobody calls me anymore. Look at this. We got 5 quality people here, but look at this. I could use one more. Kevin isn't here tonight. Gee, I would think a lot of people would be here tonight. Tom Yamaguchi isn't here. Tom would show up.
Yeah.
Because he always looks to. Is it coast clear? Is it true he's not going to be on tonight? Okay, I'll call.
Well, Tom does not like to talk bad about Phil when Phil's not here. So
I
can see why he's
so
been
Phil's
calling.
got to be here so he can talk bad about him. But when Phil's
he never
here,
talks bad about anybody, but he doesn't like to talk about Phil if Phil can't defend himself.
Tom Yamaguchi is one of the nicest human beings on the face of the planet.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Or absurdly, whatever Trump would say.
yeah, he's a Quaker, isn't he? Yeah. Or
Tom.
Tom.
Yes.
Tom. Yeah. And he's a very good person, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what else is out there? Well, we got the burning down now. Are they saying that the fires in the Amazon? Charlie's brother. Oh, what? Oh, I just got a note from Patrick. It says Charlie's brother is visiting him this week. Oh, okay. All right. Gee, you know what I like about Patrick? He's kind of the social person of this whole group. He keeps in touch with everybody, right? Mark keeps in touch with you, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and he keeps in touch with me a lot, you know. I love Patrick's social ethos, as it were. But if you're listening, Patrick, give us a call. Anyway, his brother's visiting this week. Okay. That explains it. By the way, we're only doing 2 shows next week because I'm taking Thursday and Friday off because it's the Labor Day thing. And I may or may not go out to Fire Island with Marjorie. If I don't go, then I'll stay home here because we have guests. Here's what Marjorie did. We have guests visiting us. Buddy Love. You remember Buddy Love, my friend, singer?
Yeah.
He's coming to stay with his wife starting on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But Marjorie has us going out to Fire Island on Thursday. And I said to her, well, they're going to be here on Thursday. And she says, oh, well, they can put the key under the mat. I shouldn't say that because now you know the key will be under the mat.
Oh, okay. I'll
Hey,
be
by
up
the
there
way,
next
there's
week.
a whole bunch of equipment here, people. The keys are under the mat.
Man, I'd love to get my hands on that.
But I
equipment.
said to her, how could you make those things overlap, you know? So I decided I probably will stay here so that they don't have to put the keys under the map. And then here's the other reason I don't want to go out to Fire Island. I mean, it's nice out there. We have some friends out there. They invite us out. Just go out there, you do nothing, you know? And at this age, I don't mind doing nothing, all right? But the problem is that it's also the last weekend? It's going to be the last week of the tennis,
Summer.
or maybe it's the middle. No, it's the middle of tennis of the Open out in Flushing or wherever they're holding it now, and she has to watch tennis, and so I am stuck in this place with tennis on the only TV set in the house.
I only got one TV. Can
They
you
only
imagine?
have one TV. How uncivilized is that?
You got at least one TV in every room, right?
I have a total of let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 TV sets.
6.
Yeah, yeah. We use them all, you know. Yeah. How many do you have? Scott's counting them.
I'm just 4. I have 4.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a 2.
And then in the studio, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 monitors. I know Mark's grabbing his head like, you know. Why'd you do that?
I only got 2 monitors in my studio.
Yeah.
And I have 2 televisions. They're not even 4K televisions, Alex.
Oh, wait a minute. What are you? Are you a farmer? What are you?
This is not the time right now for me to upgrade my TVs. That's the whole thing.
Here's the thing about upgrading your TVs. Have you seen what 4K TV sets are going for right now?
But I gotta wait till next year. I got my reasons.
There's a TCL that we bought.
Well, believe me, I saw the 75-inch. It goes at Best Buy for under $900 now. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, but here's the one we bought. We needed one for the living room, and we needed a 55-inch to replace the set that was in there. And we got a TCL with a built-in Roku. You got to remember, Roku's going to cost you $79 right there, right? $369.
No, it's just I can't do it this year. I have to wait till next year.
Yeah, I mean, but how cheap can these TV sets get? And by the way, the TCL isn't bad. No, it's not as rich and good as the low-rent Samsung I have, but it's good enough, you know.
Is it Chinese based? Is it Chinese TCL? I've never heard of them.
It's South Korean.
South Korean? Okay.
Yeah, do you remember?
I can go with that.
Yeah. I don't know what TCL stands for.
The Creative Life. That's, I swear to God, that's what it stands for.
The Creative Life, really?
Yeah, I'm like, really?
Well,
okay, but can you imagine we're in an age now where you can get a 75-inch panel for way under $1,000?
You can get a 75-inch. You can get a 75-inch TCL. I saw it for $900, $899, and it's got a built-in Roku. Okay, so you can't beat that. You know, and they probably get cheaper. You know.
Well, if you notice, and again, I don't want to, but the bleeding edge, or as I call it, the tax for the biggest size seems to be the 87 to 85-inch range. That's what's getting the big bucks. But give it a couple of years, boom, that drops in price. Like,
well, how big a screen do you want? Because the question is, how big is the room you're going to put it in? Yeah. Now, I only got a 55-inch Samsung for my guest room because the bed is close to where the screen is. And really, you want to think when you're buying a TV set about the field of view it covers. So, in my bedroom, I've got the bed's back further. I could put a 75-incher in there. I've got a 65 now, and it would probably be fine. But it really all has to do with how close you are to the screen. It doesn't matter what the size of the screen is. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So Marjorie goes, "Oh, we got to get a 75-inch." I said, "No, we're keeping the 65-inch in the bedroom because it's the only set we own that's 3D now. You can't buy 3D TV sets anymore. You can't go on Amazon, go looking for 3D TV sets. The only 3D TV sets you're able to buy are old, like a couple of years old. And I have another 3D that I'm thinking of actually having a repairman come in and repair because I think like a capacitor blew or something in it, and they're pretty simple to fix because they're getting a fortune for 3D TV sets. I see them being sold used for like $3,000-$4,000 because they don't make them anymore, which is terrible because I love 3D. I don't know what it is. I was a 3D fanatic when I was a kid, when I was growing up in the 50s. Went to see every 3D movie, which meant I went and saw a lot of really shitty movies because they always made the shitty movies in 3D. That's how they got people in the theaters to see them.
The horror.
Huh?
The old horror movies, like the Swamp.
Well, no, not necessarily. Let me name a few films. Sangaree.
Oh my God.
With Fernando Lamas.
Oh my God.
A film that, even though it was in 3D, is totally forgotten. I have a copy of it in 3D, by the way. I have both Creature from the Black Lagoon pictures that were in 3D here.
See,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Alex, then you might be the one who can answer this for me.
Yeah.
So there was a movie called Invaders from Mars, the original one.
Yeah, that wasn't in 3D.
Okay, someone told me they swore it was in 3D.
No.
I was like, well, I don't think so. But if there was a movie that would have been cool in 3D, it would have been that one.
Well, today they could take it and convert it to 3D, but it's not. I don't like 3D conversion because it's not really 3D. You go back. The reason I try to collect all those old ones like House of Wax and Sangaree, as bad as it was, and The Maze, as bad as it was, is they were all shot stereoptically. They weren't converted to 3D. So what you're really seeing is real, honest-to-goodness 3D. So, it's I'm a 3D purist, as it were. And what's his name? James Cameron is making movies using real 3D. Yeah, not the thing called real 3D, but using stereoptic 3D.
Him and Ridley Scott.
He did a picture that he did that Rodriguez directed called Alita recently, and it was shot in 3D. It was shot in legitimate 3D along with special effects and so on. So but I just don't. The fake 3D bothers me only because it's not 3D. It's just not. And so you go back and you watch all those old films like Kiss Me Kate was in 3D. Dial M for Murder, Alfred Hitchcock's, was in 3D, was filmed in 3D, was never released in 3D because, as Hitchcock described it, how did he put it? I think the line was 3D lasted 7 days and they released mine on the 8th. He didn't release it in 3D because 3D had died by then, so they just released it flat. But recently, in recent years, they brought out 3D prints of Dial M for Murder, and
I saw it in 3D at the 8th Street Playhouse back in the 80s when they did a 3D festival.
Yes, that's because that's when they had copies of it in 3D.
They had to get it from Hitchcock.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, in the original release of Dial M for Murder, they did not release it in 3D, and then they made 3D copies and showed it that way later on. And what's amazing about that picture is the way he used 3D. He used it unlike anybody else. He saw the value of it. What he did is he built, for instance, trenches in the set, so that you could shoot upward and look at people, and use the depth for that. And sometimes up from the ceiling, looking down. You know, he didn't use it at only one point in the whole picture does anything come out of the screen at you. Okay? Otherwise, he used it for the depth, for the field that it was taking place in. And the only time in 3D something comes out at you is when she is being leaned over a desk and this guy is trying to kill her. And her hand reaches back like this, like it's reaching out to you saying, please help me. And the hand is like hanging out there. And then she finds a pair of scissors and then boom, in his back. That's the only time anything comes out of the screen at you. And it's great. It's Hitchcock did a beautiful job of 3D. But, you know, the trouble was that 3D, what killed 3D were all the terrible movies that were made in 3D. And by the time the good movies did start coming out, like Dial M for Murder, Kiss Me Kate, things like that, where they were literally putting good production values into these pictures, nobody wanted to see them anymore. So Sibby, how old's your kid?
Jimmy's gone.
Oh,
He's
Sibby,
gone.
oh, did he go?
Yeah.
Oh, did he leave us? Well, I'll just leave his picture there.
Yeah, he bugged out. I was going to ask him. Because I heard something on the news today or on another station that the leader of India is also a fascist, and I don't know. I don't know if it's spreading. You know, like they say the guy in Brazil is a fascist and whatnot. Right. So I mean, it's just not us. It's happening everywhere, I believe.
Yeah. Gee, anybody want to call and just take up Sibby's place for the time being? We only got about 17 minutes left here. You wouldn't. I'm not going to take up that much of your time. Okay, don't let me bother you.
But yeah, they're. I see it too. It's like, Boris Johnson. You got the guy in India. You got the guy in Brazil. That's why these fires are starting. The hard right is gaining in, I think, European Parliament to some degree. Mm-hmm. And I think, what I think a lot of it is the thing with migrants, a lot of it's come the violence and everything, but a lot of it's the weather, a lot of it's the droughts. This is climate change coming to roost a little bit too. And a lot of the immigrants moving around, and that's probably why some of the hard right wings get in there, because, they don't like these different weird people coming across their borders,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a large part, I think.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. I'm trying to, I'm, oops. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Don't tell me oh, no. Okay, we're fine now. We had a slight problem here. Oh, why did that move there? I didn't want to move there. Let me see here. I'm trying to get rid of. There we go. Okay, there we go. Let me just transition this over there. There we go. I just moved Mark into the top spot, so we don't have to have Sibby frozen. So now you're in the top spot, Mark. You're in a hallowed spot on the citizen panel.
Oh, thank you.
Let me see here. What else is there we can talk about? I'm trying to think if there's anything major to deal with. Did you hear about this guy? There's this guy. I can't remember where. It's down in I can't remember where. One of the places down in the Bahamas, where this guy is accused of murdering this other guy.
The hotel worker.
Yeah, and he claimed that the hotel worker came in and started attacking him with a knife. And so he protected himself and killed him.
Right.
And so now they're putting this guy on trial. But it's kind of what I don't understand. There's a certain civilized attitude other countries seem to have that we don't have. But the guy has to keep going back to this country from the United States to stand trial. And like yesterday, he had to go down for a hearing that lasted 5 minutes. So he flew all the way from New York or wherever down to the Bahamas to do 5 minutes in court, get back on a plane, and come back. They don't even for a moment say to themselves, if we let this guy go, he may not stand trial. And the same was true with this rapper. What's his name? AKA Rocky. ATK. What was it?
As soon as possible, isn't it? ASAP.
SAAP.
Oh,
yeah. No, it's not SAAP. Well, anyway, Mr. Rocky. He gets thrown in a was it Swedish prison? Yeah, Swedish prison.
Somewhere up there.
For this fight or something that he had with somebody, and they held a court hearing, and they hold a trial. They hold a trial like within 2 weeks after he gets arrested, right?
Right.
How's that for being civilized? 2 weeks afterwards, they hold the trial. They say, well, we're going to work on a verdict here. You can go back to the United States while we're working on the verdict. What? Will we do that here? Hey, listen, Mr. Weinstein, we're having a we've just had the trial. Now, while we think about what we're going to find, whether you're guilty or not guilty, go ahead, go to England if you want to.
Go back to work.
Go back to work. Yeah.
ASAP was convicted, so I saw that.
ASAP was convicted, but he was charged $1,300 fine.
Oh.
And time served.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know what the whole deal with that is.
I think they wanted to find him guilty because the president of the United States, his name is Donald Trump, interceded on ASAP or ASP or whatever his name, Rocky's behalf. And I think they went, fuck the United States. We're going to try this guy anyway.
Yeah.
The one of the things I heard today I thought was kind of funny and very intuitive was the way Trump is acting right now. He's acting all crazy and all these, just nuts.
Yeah.
Someone said that they think he's working on a defense so when he gets voted out of office, he can go into a mental hospital instead of prison.
Do you think he's that conniving?
Isn't that the plot of a Bugs Bunny cartoon without more?
It's yes.
No.
Well, hey, Mark.
He's working on a defense plan already for when he gets arrested.
I can't go to prison. I got bone spurs on my brain.
Mark, let's be honest about something. This whole country for the last 2.5 years has been a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Looney Tunes.
It's just been. I mean, what else can it possibly be? I don't get it.
Insanity. Complete insanity.
It's complete insanity. I as I said last night, in the middle of the whole brouhaha that was going on, when I was a kid, I was taught in school what America is, and I believed it. And this isn't what I was taught.
Well, you were lied to also.
Well, that's a possibility. But I bought the lie,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We all did.
We were a country that welcomed people and was tolerant towards all races, even though,
I thought Christopher Columbus was a great guy.
Yeah.
He was an asshole. A genocidal maniac.
To begin with, well, the motherfucker never discovered America.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that always bothered me about that whole. In school, if they ask you, well, here's a test, who discovered America? And if you put down, and I said to the teacher, I said, well, how can you discover something where there are already people there?
Shut up and answer the question.
Wrong. You're wrong. You know, it was Columbus that discovered. No, but he couldn't have discovered America. You know, sometimes I'll ask people that question, who discovered America? And they go, well, this is a trick question. It was Leif Erikson. And I go, no, it wasn't Leif Erikson. There were people here when they found it. Now, if you want to ask the question, who found America, discovered America for the white people, well, then maybe we can say Columbus or we can say Leif Erikson or whatever. I mean, there's nobody whiter than Leif Erikson. You know, Americo Vespucci, you know, whatever. But to say who discovered it, and if I were an Indian kid, a Native American kid, sitting in a schoolroom and they said, who discovered America? And you said, oh, well, Columbus, I'd go, wait a minute.
What about my grandfather?
You know, what about my great-grandfather? They were here before you were. So, I mean, I've always found that what we learned in school was really a white man's interpretation of history, not a open idea of history. Now, I wonder what they're teaching in schools today. Are they actually teaching that Columbus discovered America?
Don't know.
You know, it is changing.
Oh, you're a teacher.
Yeah, since when I was a kid in school, it was all Columbus.
Yeah.
Now it's you know, it's still Columbus, but I think it's a little bit, and I don't know for sure, but less emphasis is placed on that, and we don't get Columbus Day off anymore. It's not a holiday, so it used to be.
Jeff has his hand. Jeff had his hand up. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah. So my grandfather came to the United States in 1921, if I'm correct. And he brought his wife and 3 kids.
Yeah.
And he had a guy with a big beard because people in Europe, Jewish people, had beards. And he went, well, I'm coming on this ship and I'm deciding the best thing to do is I'm going to take off my beard and I'm going to look like an American when I get there. So he comes into New York and I look at him and I go, that's not the guy on your passport.
Oh, yeah, you're telling me that, right.
Get out of here. And the wife and the 3 kids are in New York, and he got shipped back to Europe.
The original family separation.
Yes.
Right.
Let me ask you one other thing. What happened to Scott? Because Scott might want to get in on this. Anybody have an opinion about the new IDs on your driver's license that you have to have if you want to get on an airplane?
I don't quite understand it.
October 2020, you have to have what's called it's either enhanced or whatever it's called, but it has a star on it on your license, and you have to, in order to get that, go to the DMV, show them 4 methods of proof: a passport, a bill that's addressed to your home, your driver's license will also do. And there's one other thing that I had to have. What was it that and your Social Security card for proof of who you are. And then they give you this driver's license with a star on it. And that way you can get on an airplane starting October 2020.
Welcome.
Well, well, I heard this whole story on the news, right? And they told the whole thing, and they said you have to have it by 2020, otherwise you can't get on an airplane. And then they said, of course, if you bring a passport with you, you can get on the airplane. Of course, if you bring something else, you can get on the airplane. In other words, if I bring the proof myself, I can get on the airplane. What, Jeff?
There is going to be thousands of people who don't have that stuff.
Oh, you bet your life. You know what I'm doing. We're going to go get. I have to get a new driver's license anyway by December, so we're going to get down in a couple of weeks and do it. But you know, I mean, and think of the clusterfuck at some of these DMVs. Not now, because everybody will wait till the last minute, right? But how about at the DMV next? Let's say July. You know. It's bad enough as it is already at the DMV. Although now you can make appointments, which we're going to do. Yeah,
they were having a problem up in the next town up, the DMV in the county seat.
Yeah.
7-hour wait. 7 hours to get into the line to get into the DMV.
What
they
for?
Had firemen outside handing out water to people in the line so they wouldn't pass out.
Why? What was the lineup for? Because of this thing?
No, I don't know. I mean, it's just that we're always busy.
Well,
in the summertime.
Here you can make an appointment.
Well, you can make an appointment there too, but it still takes 7 hours. It's crazy. It's insane.
You know.
So, I just won't get a license if I got to put up with that shit.
Well,
I can't. And the last time I mailed it in, it was fine.
No, but the part that got me was when they said you got to have this license with a star on it, and then they said, but you can also get on if you have a passport.
Okay,
you know, or some form of identification besides the driver's license. You know,
I haven't flown in 6 years, so fuck them. I don't care. I don't need a plane.
I don't know.
I'll drive.
Yeah, but I mean, are we getting a little timid? Do you think, Mark? Do you think we're getting a little frightened of our own shadow?
Yeah.
I think it's bullshit.
See, I want a thing at the airports where I can either go through TSA and all of that and get on a plane without any hijackers, or I can go on the I'll take my chances flight. You know, and that's an airplane where I don't have to show anything. I can do what I used to do, which was get out of the cab and run like hell for the gate and then just show my ticket and get on the fucking plane.
Exactly.
I want that. I want I'll take my chances. Hey, if I get killed by a terrorist, it's my fault. Okay?
That sounds like a great business
opportunity.
opportunity.
Sign a release form before getting on a plane.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but don't give me this shit about I gotta, TSA is the worst on top of everything, you know.
They think their shit doesn't stink.
They stole my watch once. Well, they didn't exactly steal it. I left it behind and nobody came and said, hey, is this your watch? They probably figured if I didn't take it, they could take it afterwards, you know. So, I don't know. What a world we live in. We're so frightened of our own shadow, and everybody's going to shoot us, and everybody's out to kill us.
Well, that's Americans. We're just afraid of everything. We got to have guns.
Yes, Mark, you'll have the final word here.
TSA stands for Travel Sucks, America.
Yes, TSA making travel a living hell for you. I want to thank Sibby for being here, even though he's not here now. But that was terrific. And thanks to Mark. Always love seeing you, Mark. Dan, good seeing you. Scott, great seeing you. And, of course, Jeff, always a pleasure having you around. What I'd like you all to do is give a big wave goodbye, and I will wave right back at you, okay? And have a nice night, everybody, okay? All right. Hey, that's it with our citizen panel. Let me hang up on them. Good to see some people that we don't normally see, like Sibby and so on. And let me hang up on the people that are there and close the line up so that Jack can use it. Jack Bishop does the intersection. That's up next, right here at GabNet. And then we have, let's see here, we're off until Tuesday, right? Damien will be back, by the way, on Tuesday, so there'll be a show with Damien at 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time. And next week, we're only on for 2 days. We'll be off on Thursdays and Friday. And so, it's a holiday. So let's take advantage of it. We'll be back again on Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Same station in life. And in the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody.